Welcome, everyone, to the Gamer Headlines Show, Gamer Headlines' weekly entertainment podcast. This is episode 70, and I am one of your co-hosts, Chris Cortez. And with me, as always, is my other co-host, Adnan Riaz.
Yo, yo, yo.
You the man now, dog, Adnan. Like, I didn't have to say your name. If I said you the man now, dog, I don't have to, because dog is whatever. So anyway, welcome, everybody, to the show, and hello, Adnan. Welcome, dude.
Hello.
Yeah. So, dude, it's kind of funny because we used to make jokes in like some of the earlier episodes with Talk Nerdy to Me that you would be like, "Fuck, I have nothing to talk about this week," and you're like, "Oh wait, I can talk about this." Like, and it like whatever, and I'm like, "Oh, I did this," or like whatever. I don't know. I'm like, I played some fucking game for the 100th time, and then like for Talk Nerdy to Me this week, you had so much to talk about because like you picked up a couple of games recently. And, like, on the flip side, I had to, like, dig deep, man. I'm like, I didn't do shit. I haven't been doing shit for, like, the past, like, month. Like, thank God we skipped Talk Nerdy to Me last week. But dude, on that note, like, I know you have a lot to talk about, and you picked one thing specific today, but Talk Nerdy to Me, Adnan. It's been a while, man. What's been going on?
Yeah, so I've actually been getting back into the swing of my little routines and whatever else. And yeah, I picked up a new game. Well, a new game in like an old kind of sense, but
it was probably recently pressed, so you know.
Yeah. No, but I picked up a game which was released 1 year and 1 month ago.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I picked up the Order 1886.
Oh.
We all remember this game. I think we talked about it quite a lot as well last year.
Yeah. A lot of news around this one. A lot of controversy, too.
Yeah. So, yeah, I actually, went completely hands in on it. Mm-hmm. Very, very, very bad game. Like, I will flat out say that. Like, justification of I went back and read a couple of the reviews, and, like, some people gave it 7, 8. So I'm like, no. Like, I think, like, if people ever want to kind of make that comment where they're going to trash Ground Zero as being a glorified tech demo, at least it was a 2-hour glorified tech demo where the gameplay was immense and matched the same quality of everything.
Right.
And that was where the price was warranted. This game does not warrant any of that. And it is almost like people were sitting in the room and they had this fantastic concept like Watch Dogs, and for the life of them, they just sat at the computer and were half-arsed about it and didn't care anything about what they were doing except for the visuals. Yes, the visuals are impressive. Yeah, it looks like a cinematic masterpiece and like kind of blockbuster visuals and everything else. But at the end of the day as well, it doesn't really transition across the entire board, because if the Order 1886 wants to be an interactive movie, it should be an interactive movie, but then it lacks in its biggest department, which is gameplay.
Right.
So it's completely confusing. But like for me, like there's some great moments where if, for example, someone like Hideo Kojima would have been working on this project, the survival horror aspect and the kind of the grim setting and everything about London would have just been personified in horror and kind of had that great kind of touch on it and that suspense and fear. But when you go down a narrow corridor in the Order and you're feeling kind of like vulnerable, you never do, because they have a cardinal sin where you can't use your weapons unless you're in combat. And when combat's going to happen, you lift your weapon up. And it's like, why have you just killed a suspense? And it's kind of like, what? Like, really kind of start scratching your head. Like, it's just so generic, and the gameplay is really poor, and it's like a terrible kind of third-person cover-based shooter in the sense that, like, compare it to Gears of War, it does nothing like that. It's not punishing. It's just floods and floods of, like, really bad AIs and everything else. Like, the other thing is, as well, like, for me, like, the funny part, I was laughing at one point, like, you can pick up standard carbine rifles, and they have, like, 6 bullets of ammunition. But then the Order has that kind of thing where it has Nikola Tesla making these weapons, and you have scientific weapons that have, like, tons of ammunition and stuff, and, like, ridiculous powers. Why haven't the Order invented, like, bigger ammo cartridges, like 50 plus ammos in it? It's like, did someone just forget about that in the fucking council? Like, you know what, we can improve just standard weapons because we have this technology. No. We'll just leave it as it is. It's just like, right, fair enough.
I hate writing like that where it's written just for the plot or it's written just for that movie, and like the writer or writers didn't take into consideration, like, does this make sense in the context of this universe or in this, like, setting or whatever. I hate that, dude. That's such a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, it's mind-boggling to the point where I'm not paying attention to the game and I'm just losing it. And the problem as well people, as I've said before, you can kind of criticize Telltale stuff about it with like kind of being walking and just talking and whatever else. But the order just goes on and like just it's walking and walking and then really boring. Pick up this object and examine it, and you can move it in your hand. And it's like, oh wow, I'm fucking my mind is blown. Like this is revolutionary 2015 gameplay. Oh wow, I can pick up an item, see it. Like it's that point where I'm like, right, okay, like, but just in itself, like it's like okay, and then kind of going into story because I'm not going to go into too much because this isn't even a review format. Like if we had a review format, we'd be fucking shredding this game apart to beyond belief. Like kudos to the actors, good voice acting, like top-notch performances, really sell it. Because if it was going to be a cinematic masterpiece, it has to live up with the actors doing the justice.
Mm-hmm.
The script is not really that. It kind of is very pretentious, and I don't like using the word pretentious, but pretentious in the sense that it's kind of evoking so much kind of history and then not expanding it to the point where someone like me, who's a historian or kind of like a very big, well, I'm a historian, but a very much a history enthusiast, isn't seeing the bigger picture because you have this huge context and like this huge kind of like thing where they have people in this kind of like depraved and like, you know, disease-ridden, kind of poverty-stricken era of London. They don't really potentially build on that. Like there's some kind of cassette tapes where it's like cassette tapes, but like kind of a cylinder like has a recorder in it where like a member of the Conservative Party from the UK speaks, and he has a very kind of like a different attitude, and that was kind of a good part. And like one of the best parts about the Order is when they bring in the imperial side of Britain, and they bring in like how it has control over India and all these other parts. And but the bigger picture, the bigger part of this kind of thing, it is never kind of fully expanded to the point where I'm like, why are you not really fleshing out this huge amount of potential history you have? You're not really kind of like building on the elixir stuff like the Knights have. It takes ages to explain. Like it was just ages. Cause I'm like, why is this guy drinking from a vessel? Then I went in Wikipedia because I'm like, I'm taking too long to learn the fact of what this, you know, this chemical they have. But like with itself, like the Order does the biggest kind of like, you know, completely just no, and it's that it sets itself up for a sequel when it's completely and thoroughly undeserved. It is like it's like the prologue chapter to something that's going to be bigger and grander.
Right.
And it never really lives up to that expectation to the point where I'm like kind of scratching my head and not really paying attention. Because I'm like, this game has already lost my attention because it has great ideas and concepts, but then there's so many chapters that could have easily been condensed into fewer and made a more kind of potent kind of storytelling. And it's just that thing where I was looking at it, I was like, right. And if like if you make a sequel to this game, it is completely unwarranted and people aren't going to pay for it. In the sense of what you just offered here, because you've just offered a more of a you've done what Quantic Dream did with Kara and done a tech demo.
Wow!
And I found
tech
I found
demo.
Kara more entertaining than that, and I didn't even play Kara. It's just there's so many problems. Like it goes on and on. I can't even stop sometimes because of how much stuff there is. That's like problematic with this game.
That's a shame, man. Too, because the developers of this game, Ready at Dawn, they kicked ass, man. I mean, I remember they made like a Siphon Filter game for PSP, and they were doing portables for a while because they did the Siphon Filter game for PSP. They did the two God of War games on PSP. The what is it, Chains of Olympus, and the second one I forgot what it was called. But like they did Ghosts of Sparta, that was the second one. They did those two, and they were phenomenal games that pushed, you know, the limits of the PSP and stuff. And so I was delighted when they got, you know, another game, and it was a home console. I thought, oh man, and remember when they first showed the Order, how fucking badass it looked? Like it was steampunk, you know, the past and shit. It just looked so fucking cool. That's a shame. I mean, yeah, dude, we're kind of like with you having played this, and you know we're getting now like a first-hand look at stuff that, you know, we had read about previous, where like reviewers just like God annihilated the game. But that sucks, man. I mean, I really hope that they kind of get their groove back, Ready at Dawn, because they were great, man. I mean, hopefully they're not just stuck to portable consoles. Like they can make a home console game that kicks ass because they're talented people, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, but very poor game. Very poor game.
Yeah, that sucks. Well, with me, dude, not much has been going on. Not a whole lot, man. I actually had like I told the viewers earlier or listeners, I told them earlier that I kind of had a hard time really thinking of something, but something did happen. I've talked about Star Wars numerous times on the show.
Really? Never
Yeah.
would have guessed that.
And I've talked, I think, about like the comic series I read and all that stuff. And Marvel. The thing about Disney owning Star Wars is that there's so many different avenues that they could showcase Star Wars, and one of them, which I've mentioned before, is the Marvel comics. And Marvel is they make really great comics. I mean, they make some stinkers too, but they make really great comics. And yeah, man, they had this one comic series that launched a year ago. It was called Star Wars Kanan. And basically, it was going to be a comic series, or it was a comic series that would explain the origins of this character called Kanan, who appears in the Star Wars Rebels TV show. And actually, I thought it was kind of odd when they first announced this, because they made that book, the first canon book, A New Dawn, was basically Kanan's backstory. And I thought, why would you need more backstory? Like, you got enough, and I'm assuming the show is going to kind of propel that forward. But, they went forward with it, and actually, the comic was, I don't know if it was canceled, but it ended recently, and that's kind of like what I was going to talk about. It ended this month. The final issue came out, and the series is done. It's kaput. No more Kanan. They did a 12-issue run, and that's it. And I have to say, man, it kind of went out on a whimper. The series really began very promising. It was really cool. It had it was basically, to me, like how people were complaining, oh, Disney doesn't care about the prequels anymore. Like, everyone's complaining about how Disney's disregarding the prequels, and they're focusing more on the classic trilogy and the sequel trilogy. Well, this comic book kind of proved that wrong, because they would have a lot of flashbacks to like the Clone Wars era, in between episodes 2 and 3 and stuff. So this was basically the comic that was set in the prequel era. Mm-hmm. Ironically enough, it's canceled, so that kind of gives more points to the. It's the first comic to get canceled from Marvel that's Star Wars related, and it's a prequel comic, so go figure. But yeah, dude, basically, it kind of went on a whimper, and I was kind of bummed out about it. It's a fantastic series, though. I would recommend to our listeners, if you guys are into comics, I would recommend the comic, maybe like the first maybe the first 6 issues or so. Like, half the series is really good. Pretty much after the 6th issue, it kind of goes downhill from there. But if you guys want to check it out, I'm sure they're going to do a trade paperback of the whole series soon. They did one for the first 6 issues. I think they're going to do one for the second 6 issues. Marvel loves releasing trade paperbacks. So if you guys want to jump in, I recommend it. It's a pretty great series. The sum of its parts are better than the whole, but it's a fun series, so I would recommend you guys check that out.
That's our resident Star Wars take from Chris.
Yes.
No, glad you're still in your Star Wars universe.
Oh, dude,
I
always.
can't really comment on it too much. It's just like, for me, it's just one of those things where I'm like, it's like me talking to you about Gears, and it's just like, I read this novel, you're like, yeah.
No. I hear you, man. I mean, it's dude.
Well, I always do. If I was ever going to go, with like any kind of Star Wars like novel or anything else, I'd always go for your recommendation.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean that's I've mentioned this before, more than likely, but dude, that's the beauty of this new canon world or whatever. You have the books, you have the TV shows, you have the comic books, you have the films. There's so much Star Wars. And the video games as well. It's going to be staggering in the next 10 years. We're going to be over Star Wars. We're going to be like gluttons, and it's going to get to the point where it's like, okay, I'll skip this because fuck, or I'm just going to follow this because shit. But yeah, man, I mean, that's the beauty and the curse. Right now it's a beauty because I love it, but I'm sure eventually I'm going to get tired of it.